Thank you for watching the Consolidated Lodging Tax Application Workshop. This workshop is designed to give an overview of the application process. The person watching this video will need to click yes that they have watched the video on the online submission. Please save these dates. The application deadline is Friday, September 20th at 4 p.m. Oral presentations will take place on Friday, November 22nd. Applicant awards will be announced 1 week after the presentations. The use of lodging tax funds are specific to tourism-related projects, programs, and events. These can include a tourism marketing program for your organization, marketing and some operational costs for special events and festivals designed to attract tourists, some operational costs of tourism-related facilities owned and operated by nonprofits or public agencies. In some cases, capital expenses could be an allowable expense. However, capital expenditures are not covered through this grant process. As a guideline, capital expenses exceed $5,000 and have a lifespan of more than 3 years. Here are some examples of allowable and not allowable expenses. This list is not meant to be exhaustive, and if you have questions, you can always ask the Chamber. The most commonly funded expense has to do with marketing activities targeted outside of 50 miles. The 50 miles threshold is important, and you will be asked to demonstrate how you have accomplished that requirement. As an example, if you have an event in Ellensburg, the cost of creating flyers or posters and then posting them in Ellensburg would not be reimbursable. However, if you show you have distributed flyers or posters in, for example, King County, it would be reimbursable. Often, online advertising has the highest reach for outside of 50 miles. Other appropriate reimbursable expenses could include such things as facilities rentals, equipment rentals such as tents or portalets, sound systems, hired security, speakers, musicians, and other talent are also allowed. Examples that are not allowed may include prizes, payroll, rent, insurance cost, food and drink, and as mentioned before, capital expenses. Here are some expanded definitions of terms that will be in the application. It should be noted that an event, festival, or program does not need to generate an overnight stay to be considered tourism. Day trips and other activities that attract tourism are eligible for funding. According to tourism economics, a tourist traveling into the area will spend on average $205. This includes costs related to transportation, food, shopping, and any recreation that they do. Those looking to submit an application for an annual marketing program or similar should pay close attention to the tourism promotion definition. Keep in mind, all promotion needs to be outside of 50 miles of your event or location. Here are some tips from the webmaster on using the online submission process. You will need to go to the county website to start the form. There is a link on the home page of the county website. If you are a brand new applicant, you will need to create a brand new account. As a best practice, download the application and take time to fill out your responses on that, then cut and paste into the online submission. Make sure to click Save Draft often. If you are inactive, you will be logged out and lose any progress that wasn't saved. Don't wait until the last day to submit your application. Leave yourself time in case you run into some unforeseen technical issue. The first step in the application process is acknowledging you have either attended the application workshop or watched the application workshop video. The video will be hosted on the Chamber's YouTube site and linkable from the county's lodging tax page for future reference. You should email the county using the email here to signify completion. The person or persons completing the applications needs to have watched the workshop video. The person who signs the application is required to watch the video as well. The committee has included a letter outlining their goals and priorities for this year's awards. Print this letter and keep it handy while answering your questions. The committee spent considerable time developing these priorities. There was significant discussion had around the time of year events were held and the uniqueness of the events and programs being submitted. When answering, keep in mind the committee's priorities. When applicable, consider off-season events during the shoulder season. Always show how your event or program differs from others in Kittitas County. Remember to focus on how you will attract tourists that are 50 miles or further from your event location. The next portion of the application is some general information about you and the project or event. Complete the organization name and address. Indicate if you are a business or a nonprofit. You will either need to upload a W-9 or your IRS nonprofit designation. Also fill in the project contact information as listed. List the name of your project or event. Check the category that applies to this application. Most applicants will either check tourism promotion marketing or operation of a special event designed to attract tourists. Please list your event dates or range of dates, as well as the location that they will be held. Is this a new or an ongoing project or event? Here is where you will put how much grant funds you are applying for. If your event is listed as ongoing and is on its 5th year or higher, you will only be eligible for 10% of your expense budget for the project. Lastly, indicate which of the seasons your event or project falls under. The committee has indicated a desire to have events and programs that have strong, unique, and distinct qualities. When answering all the questions, you should find ways to illustrate how your event or program is different from others in Kittitas County. In the cases where your event or program may have similar elements as other events, for example, multiple musical festivals, you would do well to illustrate that while the same type of event may exist elsewhere, your event is unique because of the following reasons. Pause the video now to review what may make your event unique. This list isn't meant to be exhaustive, as there are many ways events and programs can be unique from one another. Application Part 1. Project Event Description. Here you will provide a wide overview of what your project or event will entail. Your goal is to have the committee have a strong understanding of what your project will accomplish. You should list some specific goals and what you are putting in place to achieve those goals. We will look at both a project-based response and an event-based response. Here is an example of a narrative for a project-based application. It is for a hypothetical museum. It gives a broad overview of how this museum would use the funds to reach a larger audience. Unless you know the very specifics of your project and exactly how each dollar will be used, it is okay to speak broadly instead of getting hyper-specific. For example, if you plan on using Facebook ads, that is fine and acceptable, but if you only list Facebook ads in your list of intended funds, then that is the only online reimbursement you would be eligible for. Instead of calling Facebook out specifically, speak more broadly and state you will be doing online advertising. This will allow for Facebook, Google Ads, or another online platform of your choice. Here is an example of a narrative for an event-based application. It is for a hypothetical 4th of July celebration. Once again, it gives a broad overview of what the event will entail. Notice again, we still use broad strokes. For instance, instead of naming specific bands, we could just state entertainers will be booked. Instead of listing a bounce house, we listed a kid zone, which may contain a bounce house, but may also include other items. Not listed in this example, but could still be a part of it, is a brief narrative of any unique marketing or promotion that the event may do. Each application will include a video component. Each video should be 4 to 7 minutes long. The video should be uploaded to a third-party site such as YouTube or Google Drive. You will be asked to provide a link to the video. The thoroughness of your video will make it easier for the committee to understand your project or event. It will breathe life into your application by putting a face and visual component to it. If it is a reoccurring event, use prior year photos or video clips. If it is a new event, walk the committee through what you are creating. If a similar style event is happening somewhere else, see if there are video clips you can show to capture what your event is striving for. If you applied for funding last year, do not use last year's video for this. All videos should be new for the 2025 grant process. You will be asked to provide a list of an intended use of funds. This could be the most important piece of the application because this is how the contract will list specifically what can be reimbursed. The good news is you get to write it. It is in your best interest to be as broad as possible here, even if it's somewhat aspirational, because if you might be going for what isn't listed here on the list, you will not be able to claim it later. For instance, you thought there might be a chance to get a very nice deal on a printed magazine ad if you can negotiate it with them. If you hope to have it and you would like it reimbursed, you should list print ads, even if you aren't 100% that you'll be able to use it. As mentioned, if you're going to advertise in Facebook, it is better to say online advertising, as that also allows you to use other online advertisers should an opportunity arise. Again, remember to be reimbursed, advertising needs to happen 50 miles outside of your area. Find ways to get traditionally local advertising out to a larger audience if you want to have it reimbursed. Also, don't overlook any operational costs that could be reimbursable as well. The next two questions deal with supporting Kittitas County as a tourism destination. Why would tourists travel to Kittitas County to attend your event, activity, or facility? Here you can go into a bit more detail about your event. You should include start and end times and the motivation for staying overnight. Include anything that is confirmed. You can even include items that you're still negotiating. If this is a new venture, you can tell what will set this apart from other similar events. Is this a long-time event with returning guests that will have new features? Or is this a new event or festival? If so, you can illustrate how similar events have been successful elsewhere. Facilities should list what makes their facility special and what may be new that a guest haven't seen before. Remember the committee's desire to have unique events described thoroughly. This would be an excellent time to highlight on all the unique features of your event or program. Here is an example of an event. It goes into a bit more detail than the description. It lists what is currently confirmed, as well as indicating additional acts are going to be booked. Here is an example of a tourism facility expanding their marketing and showcasing their retro collection. It lists who they are marketing to and shows that this will be a unique experience. It outlines what has been confirmed but leaves room to expand. It illustrates what type of marketing will be used but allows for flexibility to choose the most appropriate outlet. The ads are targeted to a specific demographic that they are seeking out and where they are at. You will be asked to describe your prior success in attracting tourists. In the case of a recurring event, this can be done via ticket sales, registration reports, or a variety of other analytics you may have. You could also use guest book logs, website analytics, ad performance, or any other form of surveying you have done in the past. If this is a brand new event or program, I would encourage you not to simply pass over this question. Instead, find similar events in similar markets and provide any information you can on the success of those events. Describe in as much detail as permitted how you will advertise and market your project or event. While you can and should include all forms of marketing given the nature of this application, you should focus on marketing outside of 50 miles. While your list of use for intended funds may have been broad, here you can list items that you are planning on following through on. For instance, if you listed broadly you'd be using online advertising, here you can be more specific on how. This list does not prevent you from using other forms of online advertising if you listed it broadly earlier. For instance, if you list here you would use Facebook ads, you could still use Google ads later on if you felt it appropriate. This list should complement your goals for your project or event. Working with other businesses and organizations can be a win-win scenario. The committee prefers to see collaboration with multiple partners, though it should be a good fit and a win-win for both. Some good collaboration examples could include cross-promotion of activities, other groups involved in the planning process that add to the vitality of your event or program, shared marketing cost, and leveraged buying power. A part of the collaboration process would include promoting local businesses. You will need to describe how you promote lodging establishments, restaurants, and other businesses located in Kittitas County. Such promotion may include any sponsor you have obtained and recognizing them, linking out to other businesses on your online platforms, forming strategic promotions with other businesses. For instance, by showing your ticket stub or registration, you would receive a discount at their establishment. If you're using lodging, you should link to their booking page and include any specific instructions related to booking with them. Future plans. It has been a priority of the committee that events and projects are finding ways to be self-sustaining. In the past, the committee acknowledges the need to support events and programming, but at the same time does not want to be the sole provider of funding. Successful applicants are able to show how they would be able to shoulder the cost of their events and projects in future years. Examples of how you are able to shoulder some of that cost may include, but not be limited to, tickets, merchandise sales, sponsorship opportunities, in-kind trades, other fees, and other available grant funding. Additional information. Provide any additional information which will assist the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee in evaluating your project and its benefit to tourism. This can include anything that you haven't already mentioned in your application process. You are allowed to submit up to 3 single-page documents. Examples of this information may include screenshots of your website, testimonials lending credibility to your event or project, any brochures and flyers that you have already created, any analytics that you have from previous events, any planned ads, print, online, or other that will support the credibility of your event. Before we move on, here's some additional information of our own. Visits to Kittitas County for tourism-related reasons have high value regardless if the tourist stays overnight or not. While the committee does like to see overnight stays, it recognizes the importance of day trips and ancillary activities. A tourist coming into the county will on average spend $205. This factors in cost of food, transportation, shopping, and the cost of recreation. Should the tourist stay overnight, depending on the time of year and location, will generate additional sales as well. If you are curious about the historical occupancy or how much a room historically has cost during a specific period of time, please contact the Chamber to get that information. But give us time to find that information. Don't call us as you are trying to submit your final application. When creating your online and printed marketing materials, please make sure to use the My Ellensburg or Central Washington outdoor logos, not the Chamber of Commerce logo. You'll be asked if you have received lodging tax funds in the past. Keep those amounts handy as you will need them for the budget portion. You will also need to supply historical data related to your event or program. You will need prior attendance as well as your projected attendance. It is broken down as follows. Overall attendance, attendance outside of 50 miles, attendance outside of the state, overnight guest and paid accommodations, and overnight paid room nights. Your overnight room nights may differ from your overnight guest. A room night is a single booked room, whether it has one guest in it or more. Include how you were able to ascertain this information. Some examples may include room blocks, surveys, registrations, or ticket sales. Funding and budget. The application will ask if you have applied for or secured additional funding. If you have applied for funding, you will be asked to list them and any amount that you've already secured. This can also be reflected when you fill out the income section of your budget worksheet. You should also be able to explain what changes would need to be made to your project or event if your request for funding is not met. After you complete your budget worksheet, the matching funds field should automatically update on its own. The budget worksheet. You must submit a budget which specifically pertains to the project or event for which you are requesting funding for. For instance, if you are a museum and you are putting on a specific event at your museum, you would only include a budget for that specific event. However, if you are submitting a marketing budget for the entirety of the museum, then you would include a budget for the entirety of the museum operations. For any claimed in-kind contribution valued at $500 or more and related to marketing, you must submit verifying documentation which assures the contribution will be provided. Completing the budget worksheet. The budget itself should include the past 3 years of actual data as well as your projected data for the next year. If your project is less than 3 years old, submit as much data as you can. In the event of a brand new event, you will only fill out the projected fields. Additional rows will become available as you fill out the form. You will first need to list any past consolidated lodging tax grant revenue. From there, you will need to list your other revenue. This could include, but not be limited to, ticket sales, admission fees, merchandise, food and beverage sales, souvenirs, sponsorships, or other grants. Next, you will list your in-kind contributions. In-kind contributions are valuable assets that aren't direct cash. For instance, if you were holding a cornhole tournament and received 20 free cornhole boards, that would be an in-kind contribution. Finally, you'll be asked to input the number of volunteer hours. This is not a dollar amount, but rather the actual amount of hours you receive from volunteers to host your event or program. Your revenue total should fill in automatically based on your above responses. Expenses. Here you will list the expenses incurred to hold your event or program. It is very important that each item you list on the intended use of funds is also reflected here as an expense for your event or program. The amount that you're requesting should never exceed the sum of your expenses. Remember that not every expense listed here may be reimbursable by this grant. However, if that expense is still a part of your overall event or program, it should be accurately represented here. Avoid as much as possible generalizations such as other or miscellaneous. Your expense total will automatically populate as well as your net profit or loss. This concludes the training workshop video. If you have any questions, please reach out to Amy or myself at the email below.